Hello friends, and welcome to another day. Today's UI challenge is about creating a BMI calculator app purely using Xamarin Forms. We will not be using any third-party components. Instead, everything we will be doing in Xamarin Forms itself. We will be using Skia Sharp to build a custom control. As you could see in the demonstration, there is a gauge control which allows you to select height and weight. So for that particular piece only, we will be using Skia Sharp. We will be building the control from scratch. So let us get on with it. Let us start by creating a new project. For this purpose, I am going to use a Prism MVVM application, but of course you feel free to use any other MVVM framework such as Tiny MVVM or MVVM Cross, or if you prefer not to use an MVVM framework, you can go with the plain vanilla Xamarin Forms application as well. For this purpose, I will go with Prism app. I like this a lot. I have been working with it since the days of WPF and UWP, so I find it very good to and easy to work with. So I'm going to be creating a BMI calculator app, and I'm going to be targeting Android and iOS only. We can do it for UWP as well, and I'll be using the Unity as my IOC container. So let us create the application. So my application is now ready. If I just run this application, you will see a traditional blank Xamarin Forms application with nothing but a welcome to Xamarin Forms. Let us set this to Android project. Let us rebuild the application. So the application is being deployed. And here is it. Our application is running. Very soon we will see the main screen, which has nothing but a simple label which says welcome to Xamarin Forms and Prism. Let me make this a little bit bigger so it's easier for everyone to see. So this is the application. Now usually the very first thing that I do, unless you have a very strong reason not to, I always go and update my NuGet packages. In a blank application, you usually have only two packages these days. One is the Xamarin Forms itself, and the other is the Xamarin Essentials. So I am going to update both of these packages to the latest version. So we'll be using Xamarin Forms 4.7, which has a lot of new goodies, some of them which we will be using in this application. While we are at it, I'm going to add a couple of components which we'll be using. One is the Skia Sharp. So let me add a Skia Sharp .views.form package to all of our projects. Let me accept the terms. And another package that I will be using is called resizetizer.nt. This is something very nice. I will show you how beautiful it is to work with it when we are working with images in our applications. I'll demonstrate that to you. But just heads up, usually if you want to work with images, you have to add images to both your Android drawable folder or your iOS resources folder, and you have to worry about adding different resolution versions or different DPIs. You have to do all of that work manually. With this particular package, you can add the images as shared images into your main shared project in the .NET Standard project, and this library will automatically create all the right resolutions in your Android and iOS project heads. So we have added these references. Now the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in a couple of fonts which we'll be using. So let me go create a folder. Let's call it resources and a subfolder called fonts, and I am going to be bringing in a couple of fonts over here. Let me paste these fonts. So these are the two fonts we'll be using, a regular and the medium version. One thing we will need to do to make use of this, we are going to mark it as embedded resource. Earlier, if you remember, before Xamarin Forms 4.5 or 4.6, you had to add the fonts to your Android and iOS project heads. In the iOS, you had to edit the info playlist and work with that. It was a bit cumbersome over there. So this makes it very easy. Now once I have added that, there is a small step which I need to do is I need to add a reference to these fonts in my application, telling that this is how I'm going to use them. So we can add it anywhere. I prefer it in the apps.xaml.cs file. You can also add it to the assembly info file. So these are the two fonts that we have brought in, and I am giving them an alias, regular font and medium font. So rather than saying dm sans regular ttf or dm sans hyphen medium.ttf, I just have to reference these fonts using these aliases. It is very straightforward. Now the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add some images to my project. Now let me show you, these are some of the images that I plan to use. So I have a next button, I have a male icon, I have a female icon, I have a checked icon which we'll be using. Traditionally you have to create different versions of these at different resolutions, and you have to add them to your Android resources drawable folder or in the iOS resources folder at 1x, at 2x, 3x resolutions, and then use it. So what we are going to do, we are going to use the resizetizer library to do all of that for us automatically. So let me create a folder called, say, images, and let me copy these and paste them over here. So I have got these 4 images over here in my main project. Now one thing I will need to do, I will need to select these images and I will need to mark them as shared image. The moment I do that, and if I edit my .NET Standard project directly, where is my edit project file? So you will notice it would have added these 4 lines for us, shared image, and it is including these icons. Now we have some set sizes for these icons. Let me look at the checked icon. Open with, for example, this is one of the image and this is a 60 by 60 image size. So what we need to do for each of these images, we need to define a base size. This is to tell the library that my original image is at this size. This is the size of my 1x image, and for all the other images at 2x, 3x or high DPI, XX CPI, it is going to be using scaling by this factor. For my female, I have base size of 206 by 800. The same is with my male avatar image. Let me copy that over here, and for my next button it is 123 by 123 pixels. This is all you have to do. Now with this out of the way, let me define some styles in my application. Some of the common styles which I will be using. So very first thing I will be using is I'll be replacing this Prism library with the actual Prism Unity container that we have, and I'm also going to define an iOS namespace to use the safe spaces. Let's format it a bit better. Yeah. And now I'm going to bring in some resources. So the very first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to bring in some colors. So I have a color for my page background. I have a color for my light background, I have a color for my dark text. One additional thing I am going to do, if you notice when we ran this application, let me show this to you, we saw a navigation bar at the top in blue color. We are going to hide that. We do not want to see that. We want to have a plain simple UI, and also we will be using iOS, this new namespace that we added, to use the safe area, so that the top and bottom is taken care of automatically. Let this rebuild the application. By the way, this whole source code I will be uploading to the GitHub repository. You can see it at the link below. After this application is complete, this is a place where I'll be uploading. You can download this and play with this at your own convenience. The application is loading. So you can see over here this navigation bar. We do not want this navigation bar. So this is the reason we are bringing in. So we are applying this to all our content pages, and we are saying that we do not want to show navigation bar. The page background color is going to be this particular color, and for iOS applications we are going to use the safe area. Similarly, I am going to define a style for my buttons. I only have one button style in here. So it is going to be applied to an image button. The height and width, I'm setting it to 60 pixels. The background color is transparent, and the source is next button dot png. This is the image that I brought in over here, next button. Next on, I'm going to have some styles for my grids. Usually I work with grids a lot, and I prefer to have 0 column spacing and 0 row spacing and no padding and no margin. So this is the style that I'm setting, so that in every grid I do not need to go and define these properties. And lastly, I am going to define some styles for my labels, which I'm going to be displaying on the screen. So I have 4 different label styles. One is the section header style, which is of font size 24, using the dark text color, and it's using medium font. Another one is the scale header style, font size is 10, and it is using medium, but I'm using the vertical and horizontal options as center. Similarly, for scale display and BMI result, I'm using 96 font size. So with this, now if I run the application, you will notice that our navigation bar has disappeared. Meanwhile, we are doing this, let me show you. This is the default icon that we are seeing for this Android application. This is something we will also fix. Let this load. So we have this icon, and we also have no splash screen. So we will also be adding a splash screen for our Android application. So you can see now the navigation bar has disappeared, but still there is this blue status bar at the top, which does not look very nice. That is something we can also fix. So for this one, we can go to our Android application. We can go to resources, values, and styles, and we can add these couple of lines to our main theme. Let's add them over here. So what this is doing is, this is setting the status bar color to white, and this is using the light status bar status, which will put the text or the icons as black in the white status bar. Another thing now I'm going to do, I'm going to bring in some icons for my icons and logos for my Android application. So let me show you something. If I go to say one of this MIDP app, this is the launcher application, the launcher icon. This is the icon that you're seeing when you go to the Android application, the logo on the app screen. and we have different versions of this. So this is something that I'm going to replace now. I will just come in here and I will paste them. It's going, and I'm going to replace all of these. Once this is done, so you can see this is the logo icon that we will see. Okay, for the my map load API, yes, I did not change it because my device anyways who has the old devices, so I did not change it, but for all the other resolutions I have changed it. And we are going to add a logo to our application, so let me go ahead and add a new folder. Let's call it drawable. This is where we need to put in the resources, so I'm going to bring in my logo. So this is my logo file. This is the logo. Now if I run the application, at least you will notice that we have uh, the application logo fixed. But first thing we need to do, we need to add a splash screen. So in this drawable, let me add a new item, new XML item. And let me call it splash. This is a simple XML file. All we need to do is just define the layout for our splash screen. So this is the layout. It is using the background color of white, and it is just displaying an image in the center, which is our logo image over here. This is all this XML or this component is doing. Next thing we need to do is we need to add the splash theme. So for this one, we can again go back to our styles, and we can add a style for our splash theme. So very simple, the background for this we are going to use this new component splash.xml that we created, and it's using no title and full screen. With this one done, our next step is we need to add a new splash activity. Let me minimize this. Add new item, and I'm going to add an activity, and I'm going to call it splash activity. It's a simple activity. This is where we need to define the label. We want to call our application as BMI calculator, and we are going to apply a theme to this. So let me bring in this theme. The label is this, theme is the splash theme that we created, and the main launcher we are setting this that this is the very first activity that gets launched when we start our application. And after it has been created, so we can just start. After the splash screen is displayed, we can navigate back to our main activity. In the main activity, the change that we have to make is, since we are defining the label over there, we can remove the label from this theme. We can keep everything else should be same. Yeah, main launcher we need to remove because that we have already configured at the splash activity level. With this, now if I run the application, we should be seeing a different icon, and we should also be seeing a splash screen. So here you go, you can see our icon has changed, and now we have a splash screen as well. When the application starts, you will also be noticing that our status color has been changed from blue to white. So our application is now starting to take shape. With this out of the way, we can do the same thing for iOS. We can add all the resources to the iOS project as well, but we will do that at a later stage. Right now, let's go back and start the or let's work with the first page. The reason I chose Prism, it works with an in an MVVM model. So we have a view or a content page, and it has an associated view model. So if you look at this page, it is a very simple page, just like your regular content page. There is nothing special going on over here, and it has a view model. In this view model, this is where you can define uh, your properties that you want to bind to your logic. You can work with the models, you can work with the REST APIs. All these things you can do over here. So how does this page know about this model? It is very simple. If you go to this particular application, you will notice we are registering our types. So we are saying that for the main page we are going to be using the main page view model. For whatever number of pages we add, we need to define them over here. There is another way. If you do not want to do this, you can use a new declarative method. We can explore that in another session. So this is what we have. One thing that we will be doing in this particular application, we will be working with the new experimental shapes feature, which has been released in .NET in Xamarin Forms 4.7. So let me go and add that over here. So I'm just defining a flag that I will be using the shapes experimental feature. Now let us go to our main page and start building this application. So while we are loading, I will also start the application so that we can see the changes reflecting in real time. I'm using hot reload. Any change I make to my XAML will be reflected on my emulator. So first off, I'm going to use a stack layout. I am going to set the horizontal options to center and vertical options to again center, and I'm going to give a spacing of 64 pixels or points between my different layouts. So first thing I'm going to add is a header. So this is where the header is going to be displayed. For this header, you can see I'm binding it to my title property. Now every view model has a title property because it is deriving from this view model base class, and if you look at the view model base class, it has this property title. So this is where I can set it to choose your gender. Now of course it is not going to reflect because for this I will need to rebuild the application. If I save this and see, you can see it is showing main page at the moment. If I stop and run this, it will be showing us choose your gender. Very good. So another thing I'm going to do at the bottom, I'm going to display an image. So not this one. I'm going to show an image which is for the next page button. So this is an image button. I am giving it the style next button style. If you recall, in our app.xaml we defined a style for this. So this is how it looks like. We have a button. Now for our main content, I am going to bring in a simple grid in between over here. So what this grid is doing, first of all, we are using the new feature in Xamarin Forms 4.7. Instead of defining the column definitions using grid.column definitions and then each of the column definition, we are using this shorthand. So I'm saying it is using 3 columns. The first one is auto, second column is 48 pixels of points, and the next one is auto as well. Then what I am doing is I have a section for male and a section for female. In each of the section, I am just drawing an ellipse. In column 0, I'm filling it with the light background color. No stroke thickness. I am setting the width and height of 140 and positioning it uh, in center horizontally and at the end in vertically. And then I have an image where I'm showing the mail.png. I'm showing it in the same, and I'm setting the height and width to a specific dimension, and I'm showing it in the screen. So let me save this and see how this looks like. So this is how it looks. Now you will notice that the shape is very light over here. It's hardly visible. So let me go and make this color a little bit darker. So let's start with say D3, D3, D3. Let's see if this will look nicer. Yeah, slightly better, a bit too dark, but that's fine for the purpose of this demo. So this is what we have. So we have two images. We can click on one of them to choose our gender. Now let us work on defining or binding this to the background, to our view model. Now in our view model, the very first thing we are going to do is we are going to define a property to save the selected gender. So we have a property called selected gender. Whenever we bind it or we change it, we want to display it over here. And then I am also going to bring in or define a couple of more properties to say whether if male is selected or female is selected. So a simple boolean variable is male selected and a boolean property bound to that and a female selected. Now additionally what I'm going to do is I am going to use a command from my front end, from my UI to set these properties. So let me define a command, delegate command, which is defined by our Prism MVVM framework. It is going to take string as an input parameter. So it is called select gender command. I can instantiate it in my constructor. So I can say select gender command is, whenever this command is invoked, go to a method or execute a method called select gender. So what is this select gender doing? All this is doing is it is setting the selected gender to the gender which is passed. First of all, we are setting the male and female selected to false, and then depending on the gender which is passed, we set that variable to true. So to see this in action, let us do something. Let me go back to my main page, and additionally what I'm going to do, I am going to add up next to my mail image, I'm going to add a checked icon, and I'm saying its visibility is dependent on the is male selected property from my view model. And similarly I'm going to add another checkbox next to my female avatar to specify if my female has been selected. Now how do we make this selection from our front end? Very simple. I will be using the tab gesture recognizer for this. So I am going to define a tab gesture recognizer on my ellipse. So simple tab recognizers, and it is executing the select gender command, and it is passing the parameter male. This is when we are clicking on the ellipse, which is the male ellipse. And same thing I will be doing for my female as well. So I can come over here and I call the same command, but this time I pass in the parameter female. Now one thing you might have noticed that for my avatar image I have defined input transparent is true. The reason for that is this image is sitting on top of the ellipse. So you can click anywhere on the ellipse and it will execute this command, but on the portion where the image is sitting above the ellipse, if you click somewhere over there, it is not going to capture the event for the ellipse. So that is why I'm setting the input transparent to true for my avatar images, so that it does not capture my touch events. Now with this one, if I run my application, we will see it would start to take shape. You can see I clicked on the mail ellipse, it is displaying this icon, and in my view model it has set the gender to male. If I click on the female, it clicks here. Now what I meant was earlier, for this input transparent, if I click anywhere over here, right now because I set it to input transparent, it is not capturing the event, this particular image. Instead it is passing the touch event back to the ellipse. If I had not done that, if I click anywhere over here, this event would not be executed. So we have this working. Now let's work on the next button. For that we can again do something very simple. I can define a delegate. I can define a command for this called go to, say, step 2 page, and I can instantiate it over here saying that go to step 2 page. This is the function that gets called, and this function is very simple. Let me define this function. In this function, all we want to do is we just want to navigate to page 2. So we are saying await navigation service dot navigate async to step 2 page, and I am passing it the selected gender, whatever gender has been selected, male or female, and I am saying I do not want to use the modal navigation. But one thing I do want to check for sure is, what if someone did not select any of the or any of the avatars, or did not select the gender, and they press on this next button. We want to capture that as well, so that we can simply do something like this. We can say if selected gender is empty, then maybe display a message and do nothing, so I can return. We do not need to do anything. How do I display a message in my view model? If you know, the display messages or the alert messages are bound to the UI itself. So of course in my main page code behind, I can go and I can display an alert, or I can display a action sheet. I can do all of that in my view, in my UI, but I cannot do that in my view model. Luckily, one of the things that Prism provides us is, it allows us, or it provides us with the page dialog service, which we can use. And since we are using dependency injection, we can just bring in into our view model. So for this particular one, I can just bring it over here. Let me set the using prism.services. There are a lot of services that Prism provides out of the box. Prism dialog service is one of them. So we are just injecting this service into our view model, this particular view model only. If you want this to be available for every view model, I would suggest that you go and add this to your view model base. Now with this one, I should rather store this in a private variable, which I can make use of. So I'm going to define a private variable, and I'm going to save this in my constructor. Now once I have this, I can use this to display a message on the screen. So if we go back over here, we can say page dialog service dot display alert async, gender selection, please choose your gender before proceeding, and an OK button. You can customize the text. So that's all we have to do. Now let us run this application to see what we have achieved so far. I think I forgot to do one thing, is in my page I need to tell my image button, the next button, to execute this command whenever it is clicked. So I will need to define this over here. This is something which I missed. So now let's go back to the application. Now if I try to click on this without selecting any gender, it tells me gender selection, please choose your gender before proceeding further. It will not let us move forward. And if we have selected something and say next, and of course it is going to throw an error because we do not have page 2. So it is not doing anything because page 2 is not defined yet. So let us do that. What did we call it over here? We called it step 2 page. So the way we can do it, we can add a content page. Let me call it step 2 page, and we can also add a view model. Set a class step 2 page view model. Now with this added, I also need to define this over here. So I can go and I can add a new line, and I can say for my step 2 page, use the step 2 page view model. Now if I run this application, you will notice it will navigate to the next page, which is a blank page. Let's close our main page. We will not be needing this anymore. So if we click on this, it does not allow us. If we click on something and click next, it takes us to step 2 page, which is obviously at the moment is an empty page. Now this time around, what I'm going to do, I'm going to start with the view model, and I'm going to, let me steal some of the things over here. So it has to inherit from the view model base. It is a public class. Where did I add this view model? I added it in the wrong place. Let me delete this. It has to be into the view model. Step 2 page view model. So the very first thing I'm going to do is I am going to define a private variable called gender, selected gender. This is what we are passing from our main page view model. So if you remember, when we are navigating to page 2, we are passing a variable selected gender. This is what we need to store in our local variable, and then we can work with it. Now with this, I can also add a property called avatar image. So depending on if male was selected, I want to display a male image. If female is selected, I want to display a female image. So I'm defining a property, a string property called avatar image, and I'm going to bring in my constructor, the default constructor for now, nothing special about this. I'm just setting the title to your height and weight. Let's add the Prism navigation service. We probably won't be needing this. If required, we can add this. So for this view model, we do not need this. Now how do we capture the parameter which is passed to us on this page from our main page view model? To do this, I can override on navigated to method. So this method simply takes in, it provides me list of parameters which have been passed to me. So here I can remove this line, and what I can do is something like this. So I can say if parameters dot contains key selected gender from my main view model page, I am passing selected gender. This is the name of my parameter. If it contains this selected gender, then I'm storing it into my private variable selected gender, and then I'm setting my avatar image to this gender, which is male or female, plus .png, which is the name of our image file. And while we are at it, I will also add a couple of additional properties which we can work with later. I will explain that to you when we come to it. So I am going to add a couple of properties. One is a selected height property and the selected weight property. This is the property which will be set whenever the user changes the height or the weight on the scale, and we can default it to some values in our constructor. So height of 160 centimeter and weight of 60 kgs. By the way, I am working with the metric units over here. So this is an ideal weight for a person whose height is 160 centimeter. His weight should be 60 kgs. So with this one, let me run the application, and then we will go to our step 2 page and we will start customizing the layout. So let me select, say, female, say next. It takes us to this page. Now this is where we can start defining our page. Let me bring in my page first, and then I will explain to you what we are doing here. Again, same thing, I'm defining a simple grid. This time I'm having 3 rows. The top row is 80 pixels, second one is filling all the space in between, and the last one is 140. So in the very first row I am displaying the header or the title, which is choose your weight and height. This is what we set in our view model, your weight and height. This is what gets displayed over here. Then I have a simple grid. Okay. Copy paste issue. Let's fix this. So I have a grid in between. This is our selection grid. What this grid is doing, it has 3 columns, 100, use rest of the space, and 100. So in these columns, in the very first column, we will be displaying the height control for user selection. In the second column, we are going to display the avatar image of the selected gender. If male was selected, we'll display male. If female is selected, we'll display female, and we are binding it to our avatar image property. This is what we defined over here, and we set it to whatever gender is selected plus png. And then in the last column, we will display the scale for the weight. And then as usual, we have in the third row we have our image button for the next. So let me save and see how this looks like. This is how it is looking like right now. So you can say your weight and height, and we selected female, so it is showing the female. If I go back and if I select male, it will be displaying male, right? Now comes the challenging part. What we need a scale image or a scale component which allows us to select or change the weight and height. This we are going to achieve using Skia Sharp. So we'll be building this very simple component. I searched for some components which I could use out of the box or a third-party library. There are some available, but nothing that fits my needs. So I decided to roll it out on my own. So let me create a folder called controls, and here I am going to create a content view control, and let me call it vertical gauge. So this is the vertical gauge that we are creating. Very simple. All I'm going to do over here is I am going to just have a Skia Sharp canvas view over here. Let me add the namespace. So just having a simple Skia Sharp canvas view, and I'm going to give it a name gauge canvas. The key is this paint surface method. So whenever we need to draw something on this canvas, this is the function or the method that needs to be called. So let me go to the code. So this is the simple uh, control that we have created so far. Now before I start off, let me add a bit of variables that I'll be working with. I'll explain these. So I have this density, because the density on every control, every phone or a device can be different. So there are some places when we are working specifically inside Skia Sharp, we need to know the density so that we can use the pixels or uh, the size of the UI. We can translate it to the underlying density. Then I'm defining some variables for my regular stroke width, major stroke width, indicator stroke width. My gauge width is going to be 60, and then I'm defining certain paint brushes and colors. So we have a stroke color, a fill color, and we have some stroke paints. I'll explain to you when we come over to this. For now, I'm just going to define. So let me go to my gauge, and this is a one time. I don't want to be creating this every time, so I can define this in my constructor. So for example, my regular stroke is a paintbrush which is only going to use the stroke and using the regular stroke width, which is 3 pixels, and it's going to use the stroke color, which is light gray with an opacity of almost 100%. So this is 233 out of, sorry, 230 divided out of 255. 255 is 100% opacity, and I'm using anti-aliasing. Similarly, for example, for my fill paint, I'm using the style of fill and using the fill brush. So the fill brush is another one with a very light opacity. It's the same color but very light opacity. So this is some of the private variables we'll be working with. Now we also need to have some properties that we can bind to in our main UI. So I'm going to be defining some of the properties and then explain what these are. So we have a maximum and a minimum property. What these properties are doing, this property will define the range of the scale. For example, 0 to 100 or 30 to 70 or 120 to 500. You define what is the minimum allowed value and what is the maximum allowed value. Step. After how many steps, when we are drawing the axis, when we are drawing the markers on this gauge, we need to specify at what steps we need to define these markers, the major markers. For example, if we are saying my range is 30 to 70, and I want the major markers to be drawn every 10 steps, then it means we will have markers on 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. If I say they need to be on 20, then we will have it on 30, 50 and 70. Then we also have the minor ticks. So between these major ticks, how many sub ticks do we want to display? Do we want to display 3 minor smaller ticks? Do we want to display 10 smaller ticks, and so on? Indicator value. This is the actual value of what is the currently selected value of this, such as when we are working with the height or the control, what is the current height, what is the current weight, and so on, and what are the units for this value. Whether this is an optional field, if you specify, it will display the units, otherwise it will ignore this. In our case, we will be using kilograms and centimeters. And then the indicator direction. If you remember from the UI, we have two sides. We have on one side we'll be displaying the height, the other side will be displaying the weight control. Now we do not want to be displaying everything in one direction, as in the gauge is on the left hand side and then the indicator is displayed on the right. It will look good for the left hand side control, but on the right hand side control it will look very odd. So we need to flip that. So these are the bindable properties we have created. Once we have created these bindable properties, then the very simple step is to expose them as properties which we can use on our front end. Same thing, minimum property, maximum property, step, minor ticks, indicator value, etc. One of the things we have defined in each of these properties when we were creating, if this property changes, we are calling a method called invalidate gauge. So this is the method that gets called. So this invalidate gauge is nothing but a simple method. It just takes the gauge control, the scale sharp control that we have, and it just invalidates its surface. That's all it is doing. It is getting the current control. Then we define this as a gauge canvas. It is just invalidating the surface, which means it will force it to redraw. Now redrawing is the most important component. This is what we did. If you remember, we went here and we said that to paint the surface, use the on paint surface method. This is, whenever we invalidate, this is the method that will be called. So let me add this over here. It's a simple method for now. Let me explain. So we are getting the actual surface and the canvas that we have. We are getting the density. So this density is, it is using the width of this canvas divided by the width of this whole control, and based on that it is finding out what is my density. We will be using it in one of the places. I will come to that. And then we are clearing the canvas using the transparent background color. And then there are three functions or three method calls that we are making. We are going to draw our gauge container, the outside container. We are going to draw the gauge axis, and we are going to draw the value indicator. So let me show you how this looks like. I'm going to bring in all these methods and briefly explain to you. So let us start with the gauge outline. So for this gauge outline, I am using simple lines and arcs to draw the container. Nothing fancy I'm doing. The only one thing I'm taking care of is I'm using the right and left directions to identify whether I need to draw my container on the left hand side, or do I need to draw my container on the right hand side of the whole canvas. Earlier I tried doing this using a much simpler way. Rather than doing all these lines and arcs and defining a path and then filling the path with this regular stroke paint, I tried to use the draw rounded rectangle method. That also works perfectly, but I noticed some dithering problems on the edges. It was not looking very nice, so I resorted to drawing this on my own using arcs and lines. So this will draw the outer container. Then the next step is drawing the axis. So the axis, we are doing some simple calculation depending on the number of steps and the minimum and maximum value provided. We are finding out how many major ticks we need to draw in between, and what is the distance between these two depending on the total height minus the lower arcs for the gauge, and how many minor ticks do we need to have in total. And then all we are doing is, for each of the major ticks and the minor ticks, we are drawing the lines, simple lines from one position to another position depending on the height, and we also take into account the right and left for this. So we draw the lines either on the right side of the gauge or the left side of the gauge. The last one is the draw value indicator. This one has three different components. So the very first component is to draw a line indicating where are we currently on this gauge, on this scale, where are we at the moment. So we are drawing a simple line, and then we are drawing the label. So for example, 60 kilograms or 70.3 kilograms and or 120 centimeter. So we are displaying that. One thing that we are again doing, depending on the direction, we are displaying it either on the right or the left hand side. And the last thing we are doing, we are going to be filling in this gauge using the same method that we used, but this time around we will only fill it to the extent of the value that has been selected. right? So this is a simple gauge control that we have created. So let me go back. So with this one done, let us go back and add these controls to see them in action. Let me go to my XAML page. This is where we said we will bring in our height control. So let me replace this with the vertical gauge control. Let me add the reference. So I'm just placing this gauge control. I'm giving this a name. If I want to use this, I'm putting it in the first column. I'm putting it on at the start horizontally and vertically. For my height control, I'm giving it a range of 120 centimeters to 220 centimeters. So apologies if someone is is longer than 220 centimeters, which is a lot. I'm giving it steps of 10 and minor takes of 4. The indicator value, I'm binding it to my selected, where is my selected, no, not the main view model, this one, selected height property. I'm binding it to that, and the units I'm defining it as centimeter. Direction I'm using right, and the width request is 100 and 250 pixels high. The same thing I can do for my weight control. Exactly the same thing, but this time around you will notice that I'm placing it at the bottom, and I'm using my scale of 40 to 200 kilograms, and this time around I'm using my step size of 20, and the minor takes I'm keeping them at 4, and the value unit is kilograms, and I am displaying it on the left direction, and I have a different height and weight, sorry, height and width constraints for this. Let me run this to show this to you in action, and then I will explain what all we did in the gauge control itself. So let me select a male, say next. So you can see over here, this is the gauge that we have displayed. So this outside one, this is the gauge container or the gauge outline that we drew, and you can notice depending on the direction I am either drawing it on the left hand side or I am drawing it on the right hand side. Just to show you these values of 160 and 60, this is what we initially set in our view model. So I'm defaulting it to some value, saying that okay, let's start with the normal person, and then if you are underweight or overweight, we can work with that. These are the tick marks, the major tick marks. So in this case, we said it is starting from our height control is from 220 to 120, and we said the step is 10. So it is 120, 130, 140, 150, 160 up to 220. But for our weight, we said it is 40 to 200 kg, but the step is 20. So it is 40, 60, 80, and so on. And the number of minor takes in between I have defaulted to 4. So total of 4 minor takes, which means 3 will come in between. And then when we are drawing the value indicator, as I mentioned, there are 3 parts. One is this indicator line. Wherever we are on this, I'm showing on the scale. This can be a pointer, this can be an arrow, anything that you want. It's up to you. You can change the code. And then this is where I'm drawing the text, which is the current value plus the units, say 160 centimeters or 60 kilograms. Let me see if I can make this a bit bigger. All to see a bit better. So we are displaying this, and then I'm also filling this up to the extent of the value provided. One thing that you notice right now, if I try to adjust this value, I cannot do this. I cannot drag and drop, I cannot touch, I cannot do anything. Thing which we can achieve very simply, all we have to do is sorry, we have to enable touch events on our Skia Sharp canvas control. So I'm going to say enable the touch event, and whenever it is touched, just execute this method, which is the gaze canvas touch method. This is a very simple method. if I go back, let me add this method and then I'll explain what we are doing over there. I think I added it in the wrong place perhaps. Yeah. So what I'm saying, whenever it is pressed or released or moved, basically the touch event, any of these touch events is done, I am calculating the actual height of this control, and this is where we need to work with the density, and I'm getting the exact location it is touched, but this location does not automatically translate to the value within that range. So for that I am doing simple mathematical calculation to find out that translate it to the value in between. As an example, if I go back here, let me show you. In this particular one, my gauge was 120 to 220. So somewhere in the middle is around what, 120 per 70, 170. So over here. So this is my center, right? This one is 40 to 200. So which means my center, if I take the center over here, this will be 120, I suppose. Yeah. So this is the calculation that I am doing. Now if I run this code with this touch enable, sorry, I think I made a mistake. Yeah. And I handle my event that I have handled this. I did not complete the function. So this time let me choose female, go next, and you see as I drag and drop, as I touch, the values change. So 120 is my minimum value, and if I go all the way up, 220 is my maximum value. Similarly, for my weight, it is starting from 40 going all the way to 200. So this was the calculation that we were doing. So this is touch interactions on the gauge control. Now to add a little bit of extra touch to this, ideally what should happen is the moment I move, the height of this person should also be moving, right? So if I say 152, the female should be drawn only between here to the bottom. If I make it say 220, say 202, it should be drawn up to this extent. Similarly, when I change the weight scale, this person uh, width should change to reflect whether the person is overweight or underweight, etc., depending on the scale that we have. That we can achieve using some simple calculations in our page. So let me go to my page. This is something we can achieve in the on appearing method. So let me say override on appearing. One of the things, by the way, which I will be doing is I want to limit the height, because right now if you see when I run this, this is a standard device. So over here it looks very nice, but on so this height and weight looks proportional, but if you are, let's say, on an iPhone or a Samsung S20 which has a longer height, then this whole thing will become very stretched. So to do that, what I am doing is I will just set the maximum height to 400, just for the purpose of this demo. Of course, that is something we can do actual calculation on, depending on the width of the device and the height we can come up with this. So I'm just adding a grid padding. So what I am doing is, if we go back to our XAML page, we have this grid that we defined, which is called selection grid, which is coming in our, which is filling up all the space. So what I can do over here, I can have a simple logic saying if my selection grid height is actually more than 400, then I want to add some padding in such a way that my grid height, only the actual grid height, is only 400. So I'm programmatically setting the
padding for that. And then what I can also do is I can define a method to set the dimensions. Let me call this method. Once it is done, I can call this method to set the dimensions. This is again a very simple computation that we are going to do. I am going to define my view model as well, because my selected height and selected width property is coming from the view model, so I can define this once. We can do that in our on appearing. So we set the binding context of this page, which is a step 2 view model, into a local variable. And then what I'm first of all I'm checking if my selected height or weight is 0, then return, don't do anything. Otherwise, on my avatar image, which is over here, this is my avatar image, the one that you see in the middle, which is very big at the moment, this one. What I want to do, I want to set its height and weight based on a simple calculation, depending on the actual height, the scale of the uh, uh, of the controls, and so on, the minimum maximum value and the current indicator value. I want to set the width and height. So let me go back and run this application, and now you will notice that the width and height would be adjusted according to that 160 and 60 kgs that we had initially set. Yeah, here you go. So you notice it is now looking at, it is now set to this particular height, and the weight is also looking normal. So yes, this looks like a normal person. As I mentioned, this is for an average person, this is the weight and height. One thing which is still missing is if I change this, nothing is happening. This should also get adjusted in real time. For this, we can achieve this very easily by raising an event from our view model. If you remember, one of the things, just to note, everywhere I am using binding mode is one way, which is from view model to the UI. But for these controls, I am setting the binding mode to bidirectional, which means if anything changes on the view model, it gets reflected on the UI. If anything changes in the UI, it has to get reflected in the view model. So to do this, what we will do, if I go back to my view model, I can add a event handler called, say, height weight change, and event handler, and then whenever the, say, the selected height changes, I can raise this event. Similarly, whenever the weight changes, I can raise this event. Once I have this, I can actually subscribe to this. Where is my page? Yes. So I can subscribe to this in my on appearing. I can say view model dot height weight changed is execute this method, and this method is doing nothing special other than just calling the set dimensions method, which we have already written. Of course, as a good practice, on disappearing, you should unsubscribe to this event as well. Let us run this code now and see it in action. So here you go. It is adjusting to the height and width that we have selected, and the weight, very fat, very skinny, so you can play with this. This is what is happening. Now the last step in this is to calculate or compute the BMI. That is again something very simple. We can use the same method as we did last time. So I can go ahead and I can declare a delegate command called go to results page, for example. Go to results page command. We add Prism commands namespace, and we can just define this over here, and this is the function that we need to call. So same model, we are going to BMI result page, and I am passing in my selected height, and I'm passing in my selected weight, and I'm passing in the selected gender. Nothing fancy we are doing, same way we are just calling that method. And if I once we have that, we also need to go and define it to our next button. We need to define it over here, and we now need to define this BMI results page and BMI results page view model. So let me add a new item, BMI results page, and we will add a view model as well. And since we have done this, we will need to go and define them over here as well. So BMI results page and BMI results page view model. It is complaining because this view model does not derive from view model base. My mistake, this is a content page. I created it as a content view. Delete, add it as a content page. Let's rebuild. Okay, so we also need to define a constructor for this. For the time being, let's not declare this. Let me run and see how it looks like. So we can select something, say next, it goes to the BMI results page. Now this is where we need to do the computation and display the result. Let us start with the view model first. Very simple. Let me do the computation. So first of all, let me store my local variables, my properties which are coming in. So selected height, weight. If you recall from our step 2 page view model, we are sending the height, weight and the gender. So we need to store this in some local variables, and we will do the same thing. We will have the avatar image because that is something we will need to display on the screen, and we will also compute the BMI. I'm defaulting it to 0, and this is what we will compute. One additional property I will bring in is that only after it is computed we want to show the UI. Before that everything will not be visible, so that's why I'm adding a property called is data ready. Let's bring in the constructor, very simple constructor which says your BMI, this is the title, and if you recall we had the on navigated to event. So whenever we navigate to this particular page, let me fix my namespaces first. Yeah. Whenever we navigate to this page, so we are passing in the selected height, I'm storing it in this local variable, selected weight I'm storing it, and the gender I'm storing it, and then I'm also displaying or changing my avatar image property to this male or female dot png. And for the BMI computation, it's a very simple formula which is weight divided by height squared multiplied by 10,000. So this is the simple calculation I am doing over here, and once it is done, I'm saying my data is ready. Now with this one done, let's go back to our page and start defining the UI over there.
say height this, weight of this, say next. This is the page that we have. So I am going to bring in a stack layout over here to display. So in this stack layout, all I am displaying is, see, first of all, I am saying that the stack layout is only visible once the data is ready. If the data is not ready, do not display this. In this stack layout, we need to display a couple of things first. Let's start with that. We have the header and we have the BMI computed, and I'm formatting it to 1 decimal place. So let's see how this looks like. This is the result, your BMI 35.0. Now once this is done, I mean, this is not very helpful for a normal layman person like me. If I look at 35, I do not know what does this 35 mean. So we need to display some kind of scale to show our users what does this 35 means. For this, I can define a simple scale. Let me explain to you what this scale looks like. So I'm defining a scale on for five different scale items, 5 columns, 3 rows. The first row to display the avatar image, the second row to display the title, whether it is normal weight, underweight, overweight, obese or extremely obese, and the last is the range. And I'm putting some margin around this for each of the sections. For example, for underweight, I am displaying first of all the avatar image. I am displaying a label saying under, and I want to display weight in a new line. So this is the character in XAML for new line, and I'm using this particular style. And in the last column, I am displaying less than 19. Anything less than 19 is underweight. Same thing I'm doing for normal, and I'm saying this is anything between 19 to 24 is normal. Let me go back here and see. This is what you get. So you can see one of the things, by the way, I am doing in each of these, I am setting the width of the avatar images to show whether it is skinny to normal to overweight to obese or to severely obese. So this is the ranges. Now one of the things which again does not help much is, okay, it's 35, I have to go and read, okay, I am in this range 30 to 39, so yes, I am obese. We need to visually display this or indicate to them that you are obese. So we need to highlight this. So very simple way of doing this, I thought, is we can dim out everything else and only show this as the regular opacity. Everything else is dimmed out and not highlighted. This one can achieve very simply. We can simply add a new converter. Let's create a folder first. New folder. Let's call it converters. Add a class called BMI opacity converter, and this is a very simple converter. Let me explain to you what this is doing. Let me bring in the namespaces. Okay. So what this is doing, I'm in this converter, I'm defining the from and to. It's a range. For example, if you recall, if I go back over here for my underweight or say normal weight, anything from 19 to 20, this is my range for underweight. For normal weight, my range is 25 to 29. For my severely obese, it is greater than 40. So I have a range from and to, and what I am doing is, all I'm doing, first of all, I'm getting this value which we are getting from the BMI number, and I'm converting it to 1 decimal place, and then I'm saying if this value is within this range, then return an opacity of 1, otherwise return an opacity of 0.4. That's all we need to do. Once we have this, I can simply go and I can define this in my page. Let's go back to our page, and let's define some resources. Let me add the namespace. I'm bringing in my converter and I'm saying I have 5 converters. Underweight BMI opacity value is from 0 to 18.9.
normal from 19 to 24.9, overweight from 25 to 29.9, obese 30 to 39.9, and severely obese is 40 to say 54, or this can be any number that you want. Once we have this, all I need to do is I just need to go and I need to define it for each of my items. Of course, there is a better way of doing this. We could have defined this whole section into one grid, and then we could have applied the opacity one time only, but that would mean that we have to define this the grids and the rows in every time. So that is the reason I wanted to avoid this. So for my underweight, all I'm saying is opacity is set to computed BMI, but using the underweight converter. Similarly, for this label, I am using this particular same converter, and for my third label, same thing. I can do the same for my normal opacity. So I can come over here. I can add the normal opacity converter, and I can do the same for all of the other ones. This is for the overweight, then we have for the obese. And we have the last one finally. So with this, now if I run my application, you will see the change. This time let me select male. I am going to specify some height and some weight. Say next. So your BMI is 38, and you can see this one is highlighted, but all the other ones are dimmed out. If I go back, change something else, maybe this one. Let me play with the weight. So this time it is in the normal range. If I even make it further, so we are in the underweight category. So yes, that is it for this application. I hope you liked it. If you have any comments, please feel free to reach out to me on Twitter, or leave comments on YouTube. I'll be uploading the source code, which is there. The link is there at the bottom to my GitHub repository. You can download it, play with it. If you feel there are some of the things which could have been done in a better way, please feel free, leave out the comments. So yes, thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for the next session. Have a good day.